Polipede works here. I believe Perona and Jury Bonney are sisters. Let's get into it. Spoilers for Egghead, the arc after Wano. Now, in chapter 1064, okay, Bonney makes mention that Bartholomew Kuma, her father, was a part of a special race. However, the proof is in the context of what she says here. She says that he is a part of a special race, not they are a part of a special race, which leads me to believe that she most likely is the adoptive daughter of Bartholomew Kuma. We see this too when Kaido talks about Yamato during one of their many scuffles at the end of Wano. Kaido makes mention that he and Yamato are a part of a Oni race or a demon race, which makes very plain that they have familial ties, okay? This is not the case with Bonney and Kuma. This pairs very well with Perona, as Perona, as we find out in SBS 82, cares very deeply about Moria as she sees him as an adoptive father. Also, what may or may not be true based on how things might pan out with Moria, Moria too most likely is a different race from Perona, because as I mentioned in many videos before, there aren't many horned people in One Piece that aren't fishmen. So most likely Moria, like Kaido and Yamato and a good sum of the Beast Pirates, may too be an Oni. So in the case of Moria and Kuma, you have two of the biggest warlords who presumably were kind of close and were two of three of the warlords who weren't exactly human, presumably, who ended up being the adoptive fathers of two pink-haired girls. Now, in terms of personality, many people may think that Perona and Bonney don't have too much connective tissue between them. However, there are a few things to make note of, one of which being how they're represented in the story. They both have very childish demeanors at times. Perona has a very childish way of dressing in the pre-time skip, as even though she was 23, she dressed in a very gothic Lolita style, which is often associated with young girls. Bonney, on the other hand, due to her abilities, can actually transform into a young girl. Now, another very prominent thing between these two that not a lot of females have in One Piece is a deathly fear of insects. In the fight with Usopp, Usopp used his weapon to fire a bomb filled with toy cockroaches. Then he attacked Perona with the fake 10-ton hammer. This caused Perona to faint and foam at the mouth. Later, in Egghead, Bonney had Vegapunk dead to rights with a laser weapon that she had picked up. However, said laser weapon could summon insects, and she had a very similar reaction to Perona. Her eyes went white and she foamed at the mouth. Using their shared fear of bugs as a springboard, let's talk about their similarities in narrative, okay? So, Bonney used a weapon that attracted a horde of insects. The interesting thing about that is that within that horde of insects, you see a kabuto, also known as a rhinoceros beetle. Now, as you know, in Thriller Bark, Usopp's new slingshot is called a kabuto, and that is what was used to ignite the bomb that made toy cockroaches appear. So in both instances, we have a weapon that summons bugs and causes the respective pink-haired girl to faint. The interesting part is that Bonney was using a weapon of her own volition, whereas Perona was being attacked by someone using a weapon. Additionally, what's very interesting is that in Perona's case, the bugs and hammer were fake, whereas in Bonney's case, the bugs were very real. Additionally, both of them have a very interesting relationship with Zoro. Zoro was saved by Bonney in a way during Shabandi Archipelago when he was about to attack the Celestial Dragon. Later, during the start of the time skip, Perona found and saved Zoro when he was transported to Mihawk's island via Kuma. Very interesting. Also, what's very interesting is that Kuma transported Perona to that same island, and Perona has always had a tendency to keep a bear around. That bear is always called Kuma and then a letter. So the zombie bear that we see in Thriller Bark is named Kuma letter C. And they always have the appearance of a stuffed bear wearing a hat. Another very interesting detail is that both Moria and Kuma know each other and have met each other to discuss Blackbeard's bounty. What's interesting about that is later on, Bonney is captured by Blackbeard for some unknown reason, and now we know that Moria went to Blackbeard's island in order to find Absalom. What's interesting about that is Perona is actually going after him. So she too now is going to a place where Blackbeard is. So to recap, both sisters were victims of a weapon that summoned bugs. Both of them have a very interesting and very unique relationship with Zoro, and both of them have very unique relationships with their warlord adoptive fathers and potentially being in the midst of Blackbeard. In terms of design, I don't think there's actually too much to say outside of the obvious, but that obvious thing could lead to some very juicy implications. As you know, Perona and Bonney are two young women with pink hair and wear red lipstick. Okay? We have a lot of characters like that, but the most prominent one that I think we need to focus on is Lola. Lola comes into prominence during the same arc that Perona does, which is Thriller Bark. We later find out that Lola is the daughter of Big Mom, who's sort of like the big cheese character with pink hair and red lipstick, okay? So I think Bonney and Perona were adoptive daughters of the respective warlords who both appear in Thriller Bark. However, I think their biological family is somewhat related to Big Mom. Not saying that they're both daughters of Big Mom. They could be cousins. They could be some sort of relatives down the line, even nieces. But I do think there is a familial connection there. I would also additionally say that it's very perplexing and interesting that Kobe, yes, that Kobe, has some very weird narrative ties potentially to Big Mom, and he too is a person with pink hair. One may not realize this, but if you look at the older version of Alvida at the start of the story, she pretty much feels like a prototype of Big Mom, whom was Kobe's oppressor. Now later, Garp and the gang are going to save Kobe, who are in the clutches of Blackbeard. You know who else went to Blackbeard's island? Perona. You know who else was captured by Blackbeard at one point? Bonney. So there's some narrative looping going around here with these pink-haired people. But to focus, yes, I think Perona and Bonney are sisters and are closely related to Big Mom and then finally Kobe. And with that, that's all I have for you today. Thank you for watching. If you like stuff like this, please feel free to check out my YouTube channel, Polipede Works. And if you like what you see, I would appreciate your subscription. Thank you so much. See you next time.